We are excited to learn from Dr. Kathy Royal and Ms. Dorothy Barker from Operation Spring Plant, and Elizabeth Ramsey, and myself, Dr. Smolsky from North Carolina State University. This wonderful group will be presenting Affirming Black Farmers, a journey of resilience and assets through appreciative inquiry. This provides results from a pilot workshop to better understand resource access in the Southern region, and thereby improve the Southern Ag Exchange Network directory and assure resources tailored for different communities. Before I turn the discussion over, I ask that we all speak in an intentional cadence to permit the interpreters to follow along with the conversation. Also, audience, please place your questions in the Q&A function that you will find in the bottom toolbar in Zoom. We will follow the presentation with time for Q&A. Now, I pass the mic over to Ms. Dorothy Barker to introduce Operation Spring Plant.
Good afternoon. I am Dorothy Barker, Executive Director of Operation Spring Plant, Inc., nonprofit grassroots organization based in Oxford, North Carolina. Operation Spring Plant has been in business since March of 1987. Some of our programs are Stamp Out Hunger, Youth in Today's Agriculture, Women in Today's Agriculture, Biodiesel Production, BFEP, and Farm Bill Outreach and Technical Assistance, and Food Sovereignty, making sure that small Black farmers can receive a fair market price for their locally grown fresh produce, and also be able to acquire good markets, sustainable markets. We also look at the next generation of small family farmers. Who's going to take the reins after Philip and Dorothy Barker with Operation Spring Plant, but also for the farmers, who's going to take the reins of running that farm family business? A lot of people do not consider farming as a business, but we're trying to get the new and beginning farmers to look at farming as a business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dorothy.
Yay.
It was in conjunction with Operation Spring Plant that we decided to collaborate on a pilot project with an emphasis on community-based strengths. What we mean by that is that communities bring to the table strengths, assets, resources that aren't always seen, that aren't always understood, that are often seen as communities with needs and lacks. So we wanted to flip that script. The other piece of this, right, is we wanted to be able to ground the resource directory that the Southern Ag Exchange Network and also partners such as Operation Spring Plant, that resource directory is grounded in the specific communities, values, traditions, understandings of what makes a resource quality. That becomes a vetting process for people, organizations, and programs that farmers, ranchers, and farm workers can turn to when they need to access given services, such as financial, legal, labor, physical health, mental health, so on and so forth. So the USDA, through NIFA, has been funding farm and ranch stress assistance networks in 4 regions. One of those regions is the Southeast region, and the Southeast region FARSAN is known as SAGE, the Southern Ag Exchange Network, which is led by the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. In conjunction with them, North Carolina State University and Operation Spring Plant, with Operation Spring Plant as the PI, received a subcontract to be able to carry out this pilot. And through that, then expand our asset mapping tools as a way to build community while also doing research and collecting data to support the resource directory. That is, we wanted to figure out a way to have a multifaceted tool and to build that tool in conjunction with the communities this project is meant to serve. So just wanted to frame that out. And at this point, I want to turn it over to Dr. Royal so she can explain a bit more about what we mean around community-based strengths and a specific form of doing asset mapping. So over to you, Dr. Royal.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andy. And good morning, everyone. I am delighted to be a part of this. I'm delighted to be a part of the idea of understanding community-based assets and how we chose the methodology of appreciative inquiry to do the work of this particular research project. I want to say a little bit about why we chose this methodology and then share some understanding and linkages concerning the appreciative inquiry AI process, not to be confused with artificial intelligence. One of the reasons we looked at community building and community-based research around asset mapping is because we also wanted to expand the idea about what was an asset and how our assets used by the community, and specifically by Black farmers and ranchers through Operation Spring Plant's wide net of farmers and farm support initiatives. We also wanted to expand the understanding of research around community-based information. We wanted to move forward in looking at what other assets, what other methods, what other actions and behaviors do farmers and ranchers, and specifically Black farmers and ranchers, use for sustainability. We chose appreciative inquiry because it is a strength-based and future-focused methodology. And what we mean by that is that we ask our questions, our interview questions, which were sanctioned by the IRB process. And appreciative inquiry is a methodology that has been in the research field for over 30 years. So what we did, and it's action research, so it is participatory in its nature. Appreciative inquiry looks at the information from the purpose of what is working well. And we ask our questions of our participants around that. And as you can see on the screen now, it is a circular methodology so that you can do multiple iterations of the appreciative inquiry methodology. We also ask the questions from a position of making a specific topic choice. We chose the topic choice of how are you using your assets? Share with us a time when you are looking at the success of networking, the success of examining your assets, and also the success of how you share information. Because we also recognized, and this is something that has come through very specifically and clearly in Operation Spring Plant's work with Black farmers and ranchers, that the network and the community-based work is so critical to Black farmers and ranchers maintaining their good mental health, or their belief that their farming is, and I will use this word and we can talk about it later, that farming is sacred and that it has been in the family for generations, or that it is something that is critically important to a particular way of life. So we ask questions from the affirmative, and that is what happens in that northern circle where we discover what is working well. How do you do that? Tell us about a time. And one of the key things in action research, and in participatory action research in particular, is the voice of the interviewee. And so we use those stories, we affirm the stories that have been told to us. And one of our key methodology principles, a core value of appreciative inquiry, is that we make the participant, the interviewee, the central focus of our research. So their stories are their lived experiences. We pull from those, we ask permission, and we also make very clear that this is a shared initiative. And then you can move through the 4 circles, and the dream phase is very important around what do you want to happen next? What should be coming as we map our assets, as we use our strengths, and as we co-create a preferred future for the sustainability of Black farming and Black ranchers. So that was critical to the way we worked and the way we asked our questions. And it was also, I believe, a critical piece of expanding the trust value for the research, because there is a history, and we wanted to make sure that the history of research and people giving attribution was very possible. So then we move into the design phase. And in our work, we did not go that far. We stopped with the discovery because we wanted to do more later. But the key points in this are: it is strength-based, it is future-focused, it takes into account and values the lived experiences of the participants, the people who granted us permission to hear their stories, and it is a live experience. And so the farming community came together to do this work and to answer our research questions. And we have those themes. You can see some of the things on the left-hand side of on the right-hand side of the screen about who was there, some of the points that came forward, the salient words that we heard throughout our research. But my colleague, Elizabeth, will share more about that. I'm giving it back to you, Dr. Smolsky.
Thank you, Dr. Royal. And on that point, as Dr. Royal is moving into, our method, what we were able to build was at the Operation Spring Plant Annual Conference, registrants that attended the conference could opt in to also participate in our workshop one of the mornings. And so this workshop lasts about 2 to 3 hours. And excuse me. In this instance, we had 16 farmers from North and South Carolina attend. There was a large age range in the room from 29 to 75 years old. Notice here it says 2 males and 11 females and 16 total participants. That's a matter of who filled in the survey in terms of every question. But what we could say is we were very much skewed towards more female farmers in the room than Black male farmers. Anecdotally, I can point out that some of the older Black male farmers decided that they weren't open to participating in the workshop at that time, that maybe in the future. We were also competing with other amazing speakers at the conference. And so there was that dynamic going on as well. In terms of years of farming, 1 to 60 years. So once again, ranging from new and beginning farmers all the way up to incredibly experienced farmers. In terms of generations farming, seeing that range again from, back to the land for the first time in maybe many generations, all the way up to century farmers participating in this workshop. And that diversity of Black farming voices is really important to what we learn from a workshop of this type. And then, in terms of farm scale, if we're utilizing USDA definitions of small scale, all of the farmers that were participating in the workshop could be understood as small scale farmers, not just in terms of farm size, but also in terms of gross farm sales. And when they participated in the workshop, they participated in 2 activities. One was a partner discussion. So this is a shared storytelling exercise. And it's a very powerful tool to develop conversation, and it also shifts the research dynamic out of the hands of the researcher and into the hands of the participants. So the farmers were paired off and they were provided with a facilitation guide. And each was then meant to ask the other farmer in their pair a set of questions so that they could narrate their stories. And then they would switch roles, and then we as a group would document the different themes that came out of sharing those stories with one another. The second exercise, oh, Dr. Royal, did you want to expound? You're on mute. Yeah.
One of the things that comes out of activity number one that oftentimes is a collateral benefit is that shifts the energy around sustainability and capability. When asked what was important or how did it feel? I know it sounds like a research question, but understanding the emotions that allow people to maintain and have persistence in farming comes out of what is the emotional attachment. And so some of the words that we heard around there, that question and that ability to have one person singularly listen to your story was very empowering. And the idea of then switching and sharing it again without interruption. And I want to bracket that because that is a key piece of how the AI or the appreciative inquiry interview is different from a conversation. So it is a focused interview and it's a focused dialogue. And as Andy said, with specific questions and a script. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you for adding in that context, because that is crucial to this whole process, right? And in that, once again, multifaceted tool. We are learning together how to hold these very directed conversations with one another. The second activity, and this is the one that really takes those themes and then flows them into a specific tool, that being the resource directory, with a goal, right, that it can be a place for referrals out to those services that farmers, ranchers, and farm workers need to be able to address the stressors in their lives. And so this involved giant easel pens, sticky notes, and farmers working together in groups to be able to lay out the different resources that they have access to that they consider empowering. As Dr. Royal likes to say, when they're at their best, right? How they do their farming and the resources that bring them to the point that they're at their best, and then to share out and discuss the impacts of these resources and why they consider them quality. And then we ended with a gallery walk where the farmers were able to walk around and see the different resources that other tables had come up with. So that was the activity overall. And what I want to turn to now is Miss Elizabeth Ramsey to share out what we found. That is what the farmers had to say.
Hello, everyone. So to begin this discussion about the themes, we'll start with the themes that we found with these partner discussions, these one-on-one conversations that they had with each other. So the first theme I saw was community ethic. And this is not just like being able to provide for your family, yourself, but being able to provide for the community and reflecting on that dedication to communal support and sustainability. There's one individual who was reflecting on a family member and how she would still help her community in any way that she could through providing resources. And that just showed her sharing that with her partner showed how that community ethic that her family member had influenced her to also be able to share with the community, because someone in her family was embodying that and she was able to see that, and that resilience of providing and supporting a community is obviously being passed on in those family members. And so next theme that I saw was this spirituality, whether it's coming from people connecting with just the land and just these like ancestral roots, knowing that their ancestors were people that tended to the land and now they are coming back to it. This healing on the farm. For one individual, they weren't in the agriculture scene, but something happened within their life and it inspired them to go to the land, be a part of the farm, and reconnect to be able to heal within themselves and then become connected to the land. One quote that was really impactful hearing was "Welcome to paradise." Is this sense of the land is where Black people came from. This is what we're meant to do, and being able to reconnect with that, whether that is you have family that used to farm or you're just now finding that this is something that you can really do, that just being able to connect with the land, God, and God's creation, and giving back to the earth like it gave to us in the beginning. So the next theme we saw was just this family heritage, these deep family ties, and this commitment to continue the legacy of agriculture across generations. Several participants shared stories of their family history, and several had legacy farms and just this legacy of farming, emphasizing the importance of generational wealth and stewardship of these century farms. And they spoke very passionately about preparing it for the next generation and just wanting this work to continue within their family, within the Black community, and being able to have that land stay within families for generations. And they also just, again, highlight this healing of being on the farm, knowing that this was land that their families stewarded before them and then their grandparents before them. And just this one participant just described it as a deep family ties that inform our work as farmers, continuing the legacy of those who've come before us, ensuring our work today benefits future generations. And I've had the honor of being able to talk in more depth with one of these people that has a legacy farm, and just hearing the stories of stuff they've had to go through, especially when it comes to like who owns the property, and being able to keep that land, even though you have to maybe have to fight for it, was just inspiring to know that they want this land to stay in their family and to continue to be a part of their family for more generations to come. And this kind of this ties into the theme of endurance, and this theme highlights like perseverance, resilience, and self-sustainability within the farming communities. Many of these participants shared inspiring stories of perseverance despite challenges, emphasizing the importance of education and the continuation of their family's farming legacy, going back to the person I was talking about that had that century farm, and then the difficulties that they've had with people trying to take that land from them, or family members wanting to sell the land when it comes down to like heirs property, but still just persevering so that the land can stay within their family, even though it's not all of it, at least most of it. But they just expressed this deep commitment to preparing for the next generation. And there's several people passionate about even their small scale farms and being able to steward that land. And as this one person put very well, that perseverance, resiliency, no matter what's going on in my body, I'm still going to continue and press on and support and help other people. So it just shows that even with all the difficulties that these Black farmers may be going through, they're still wanting to be perseverance and stay within this agricultural landscape, even though it may be hard with the different things they may be dealing with within their life and then within the agricultural space. And then next, talking about this land sovereignty, reuniting with this age-old profession. And it just highlights this deep connection with the land and a renewed commitment to its stewardship. Participants expressed like a journey of reconnecting with the farm as an age-old profession. Like I said earlier about this, knowing that this is where they came from, that their ancestors farmed land, and that it's like within their blood that they should also be taking care of the land and providing to their community. And they spoke passionately about honoring the land as sacred sacrifice, emphasizing the love and spiritual connection they feel towards it. And as one participant shared, reuniting with this age-old profession and acknowledging that we've gone away from it. Different generations have stepped away from the farm, but just coming back and reuniting with it. And it's the spiritual expression. This is connecting back to that spiritual theme that we were seeing as well. And then as well as this other individual talking about how they saw their grandparents on the farm. They grew up on the land, or they remember summers visiting their grandparents, and that they moved away from it, but they're now coming back and bringing their family, their children, so they can experience this connection with the land and hopefully continue that for more generations to come. So these next set of themes are more focused on the asset part of the workshop, The second half we did with the rating and sticky notes and sharing these among each other. So to begin to talk about this accessibility and affordability, and one of this accessibility highlighted the importance of practical support in their farming operations, being able to reach out to these resources such as agrimedicine. And one individual shared that they were able to get help putting in curtains in their high tunnels. They shipped it to them, and he also acknowledged that he was not able to be able to do this on his own, and they were able to help him. And then Erin made a comment about the affordability of land loss prevention. It was a free resource that she was able to use. And it just shows that these farmers are looking for resources to help them. And sometimes they need that extra help with being provided resources that are affordable and are more accessible to them, because they may be able to afford it, but they may not have the physical strength or the team to help them get this stuff up together. So they need like stuff like agrimedicine to be able to get the things done on their farm that they need help with. And so the next theme, risk management, with all the different elements that can affect your farm, diseases, pests, the weather, being able to have this plan, having a plan to put together to be able to protect your farm is important to these farmers. And Erin commented on agrimedicine again, talking about how they were able to help them if they felt like something was going to happen on their farm, and get like tips, advice on how to maybe prevent it, or to like protect their crops from like maybe incoming storm, or if they know there's like disease or pest that's like really prevalent one season, being able to get some tips to help with preventing that problem and keeping their crops fine, and so it doesn't like result in a bump in the road whenever they're trying to be able to provide to the community for their family with the product that they're growing. And then just the necessity of multiple resources. Just one resource isn't going to be enough for these farmers. They were able to share multiple resources that they've used because they have financial needs, the prevention of stuff like the weather that I was addressing earlier, and just help with like the stuff on the farm that doesn't include working in the soil. So Marcus was commenting on how USDA has been helpful. There's grant programs, the different banks that he has used to be able to fund anything he needs on this farm. And then like the Department of Agriculture, specifically with the University of Maryland, that finding these workshops with bookkeeping and accounting, and then also workshops for even grants and farm sales. And then even finding resources to help with finding more labor for on the farm was important. So there's just so many resources that farmers need to have access to be able to have a successful farm, that it was important for a lot of these farmers to share with each other the different resources they were able to use and find, so that these other farmers can also have access to figuring out what they may need in the future. And then lastly, just talking about the direct contact and case management, which is important because you never know who will answer or like if you'll be able to get help. So with Erin sharing their experience with land loss prevention, showed the other farmers that this is a place that you can go to because they will listen to you, they'll help evaluate it, and they'll let you know if they can help you. And from Erin's experience, like most of the time they can. And they've helped with analyzing the situation she was in, doing site visits, calling other people to come in and help with the case, and then getting paperwork. So that's very important for farmers to be able to know that where they're going can provide them with the accurate tools to be able to help their whatever issue they're having. And just Erin sharing this was really valuable to the rest of the group, so that they would know that maybe in the future, if they need that, they can reach out to land loss prevention. Okay, so just a little final takeaway. During our workshop, we achieved significant milestones in fostering these strong connections and shared narratives among Black farmers, enhancing community solidarity and mutual understanding. This just emphasized the importance of cultural grounding within the Black agrarian frame. And it validated and respected the diverse practices and traditions that these farmers shared with each other. And it also just gave us information to be able to give feed to develop any criteria based on these community feedback to be able to create these assets so that we can share it with not just the farmers that worked with us, but also like beyond that, so that Black farmers everywhere can have access to assets that will be enriching and helpful for them. It was just like amazing being able to hear these stories from these different farmers that have been farming for generations. Myself as like an aspiring farmer, hearing these stories of like resilience and just knowing that them being together in this room was like community building for them was very encouraging to see as I hopefully become a farmer in the next couple of years. So just knowing that they are preparing a space for the next generation, and that's also one of my passions, was very encouraging to see, and it was very impactful experience for not just the people participating in the workshop, but also for myself.
Trying to get the mute off.
Exactly.
I was actually going to turn to you, Dr. Royal or Miss Dorothy, if y'all had any other comments that y'all would like to share about this workshop and how it went and how you think it supported farmers.
Thing I would like to bring up as I spoke to some of the people that they got out, that came out and went back into the other conferences, that you all listen. And that is some of the things that some of the Black farmers are saying. They can't get anyone to listen to them without exploiting their stories. And some even say, like, it made them laugh because, like they said, it's no laughing matter when you are discriminated against and trying to get your operating expense or to get your product sold. So we do know even though it was a research project, there was some laughter in the class.
Miss Dorothy is always busy. Just want that to be clear. Someone is calling because there is something that needs to happen, and she's gonna make it work. Dr. Yep.
Lori is asking if this is being recorded, and I think the answer is yes.
That's correct. It is
Okay.
being recorded, and it will be on the southernagexchange.org website. And it will be available with both the English audio and also the Spanish audio.
Hooray. Great. I want to come in and close out something. First of all, Elizabeth, thank you so much. It was just wonderful watching what we did and our themes unfold, and your narrative around the impact that the sharing of the stories had on you. And I would like to add my voice to that the collateral benefit, again, of using an affirmative process, of using a process that speaks to farming, speaks to the impact of farming, and enfolds into that work the voice of farmers and ranchers, as well as an opportunity for farmers and ranchers to sit together and look at what emerges. Oftentimes we're talking in isolation, or the participant is talking to the researcher. This process allows for both of those things to happen at the same time. The researcher is there. The researcher has a framework to support the inquiry. And again, I want to iterate that is always in line with IRB and the Belmont initiative on research with human subjects or research on human subjects. I love the fact that Appreciative Inquiry and this participatory action research process is strength-based and research with participants. And the idea of participants having a premier or a first-time experience of listening to each other in a focused manner. Of course, they're always talking to each other. I don't ever want it to be considered dismissive of what farmers do when they are together. But the idea of 16 different farmers moving in and out of conversation with each other is an Appreciative Inquiry summit on the sustainability, persistence, and resistance in the Black farming community in order to thrive. So that was really, in a couple of moments, it was actually an emotional experience. And the intergenerational, just the visual impact of seeing young farmers to seasoned and wise elders in farming is one of the things that I believe is another benefit from this that oftentimes we don't document, and maybe sometimes it's not quantifiable, but it does not mean that it is not quality, and it should be embedded in our research findings. I'm done, Dr. Smokey.
Well, I want to thank Dr. Royal, Miss Dorothy, for the privilege of getting to collaborate with y'all on this pilot. It was an amazing experience that we've been having over the past year, from doing the workshop to analyzing the data to just hanging out sometimes and talking about, farming and the ways that we can build more resilient agrarian communities. I also want to really give a shout out to Elizabeth, who, above and beyond, while also preparing her thesis proposal, was pivotal in making this project a success. So thank you as well to Elizabeth. And then also to the audience. We always appreciate getting to share these. And this one is especially heartfelt to share out in the SAGE Applied Research webinar series. So without any other questions, thank y'all. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day and week. And we look forward to seeing y'all at the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Keep safe, everyone. It's hot out there.
Very hot.
Very hot. Thank you, Dr. Smolsky.
And thank